Alright, what's up guys? I quickly saw that there was a banner trailer for the new Three Houses units that just recently came on out. The Caesar Legends 4 results with Dimitrius, Claude, Edelgard, and Lycia. And I saw a lot of people freaking out about these skills and they were worried about them. And they're saying you gotta pull for this guy, you gotta pull for this guy, and I believe that that's just kind of like the first impressions these units gave, and I don't feel like that's really what they are. While I do not have the exact stats of each of the units, I do want to share like a different perspective taking to help you not be as worried and to help maybe find some counters that you can't normally see. For instance, when we get to Dimitrius, who's the first one, and I think you'll quickly see that he's not as broken as initially thought.
My road to redemption is long, but I hope to be something like my father by the end of it.
Alright, now here we see Dimitrius. A quick look is he is a lance infantry, which I always feel like there's never enough for some reason. Now, Moon Gravitives, I do like that they do reference the routes, you know, Azure Moon. I'm pretty sure Claude's is wind, so it's like verdant wind. So Moon Gravitives, it's got DC on it, and it has special cooldown charge +1 per foe detector in combat. And that basically is just the breath skill you're used to, with no additional effect. It's basically a DC breath on a weapon. So it's nothing too fancy, as if you haven't fought armored dragons enough already. It's just the infantry guy this time. Noon time, I can definitely see getting swapped. A lot of times with these units, I thought, okay, they're not rocking their special, so, or doing any damage. Like, Dimitri's not doing +10 damage with noon time. And if you take that off him, he's not recovering any HP. Is he really going to make it? Next up is Attack Defense Unity. Now, I didn't understand where the 19 came from at first until I read it through it a second time. Now, this is a superior bond, and he only needs to be within 2 spaces of an ally, not 1. So that does hurt a little bit on the power creep side of things, especially since we almost got almost every single bond in the game now. They're kind of pointless unless you run Altum. So he gets attack defense +5 as long as he's next to someone. Meaning if you took out all the enemies and Dimitri's left standing, he's not going to get this bonus. Because he only gets the attack defense bonus if he's within spaces of an ally. And another big thing is, I play Arena over 8th raids, and I don't see many dancers in the higher tiers of Arena, I'll be honest with you. I might come across someone with a merge +10 whale of a dancer, but I run peony personally, and I've not actually run into many peonies. I'm generally surprised by that. Maybe it's just my luck. So, right now, with dealing with this unit, you see that even if it gets danced, he's an infantry, not an armored. So he's going to move to where he's 1 space away from an ally to being 3 spaces away. So if he gets danced and he gets sent in there, he's not getting that defense bonus or that attack bonus. So I don't really see where the problem is. Now, Blue Lion Rule. So this is where we don't have unit stats, and I think that it doesn't really matter. It's cool that we get that damage reduction based on another stat. It is his defense, which is unique. I think that's actually really nice. Now, if foe initiates combat, you makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. I am so glad that he does not prevent any follow-up attacks. Now, that also tells me that he might not be the fastest guy out there. I'm definitely seeing maybe 30-ish speed on this guy. He's going to have a lot of attack, a lot of defense. And based on looking at his HP now, I'm pretty sure it's full. I just have to double check. I think it is full. So he's like 41 HP. He's going to have a lot of defense. I do expect him to have attack and speed. And then joint hold attack is, well, he gets more attack. Whatever, it's Dimitrius. He does a lot of damage. So where is the weakness in this? One, I just pointed out against when the enemy uses a dancer, it puts Dimitrius at a disadvantage. Is one. The other one is that his weapon doesn't do anything to accelerate cooldown besides that based on attack, so he doesn't have like an initial cooldown, so that doesn't affect his player phase at all. Meaning you can bait this guy on in, so there's that. The other thing is, if you do want to take him out on player phase, he doesn't. I'm not getting any res vibes from this guy. Okay? This guy has a lot of defense, a lot of attack. He's meant to be a physical tank with DC and all that. He can do anything. But his res is not getting buffed by anything. The only thing is he does get the 40% damage reduction, because typically if you're going to use a mage, they don't have a lot of defense, so there ain't no phantom defense seal, so we can't really do much with that. If there was a phantom defense seal, you definitely slap it on this guy and he wouldn't take like any damage from any kind of stat. So the thing about it is, I run a Yune, right? And Yune can guarantee herself a follow-up attack as long as the foe is debuffed. Now I do expect that I'm going to be debuffing his defense, but I'm going to be attacking his res, so who cares if his defense gets buffed? And I'm likely going to double, because as long as I get the debuff, I'm going to double, get a follow-up attack. I'm going to attack twice. Now, you might be like, oh, he can proc like Moonbow or Glimmer. Yes, he can. That's why I run Sturdy Impact on Uni. So not only am I getting the weapon triangle advantage, but I'm also getting the plus 10 defense from Sturdy Impact. And I run Distant Ward on PNE. So I'm not sure on the numbers myself right now, but I'm not seeing anything that bad. And also, this is a great time to point out that there are rouses, and I think they're the rouses. I know Layla has one, and I didn't realize how good they were until I was playing Rooker Sieges. The rouse skills are the ones that basically you use a rally and you inflict guard on cardinal directions is stupid. Right now, if I were to run that right now, if I were to use those rouse, I don't think they're called rouse. I don't know. They're called, I'll probably put the words somewhere down here later in post-production. Looking at it right now, if I use a guard on him, he's going to not be able to proc his special immediately. Mixed with the fact that I'm going to be maximizing to my defensive stats and doing maximum damage and doubling before he can make his follow-up attack that's guaranteed, I'm not seeing any kind of timeline that this guy wins. So right now, that's the Dmitri debunked for you. Just, you need to have a way to decrease his cooldown, and then you need a powerful green unit to tank him on. That, be it a mage, you can probably get away with using a blue mage, but that damage he's going to be doing back to you is another thing.
Fodlan isn't going to change itself. Sometimes it takes an outsider to make things happen.
Alright, and here we have Almira's king. So, the thing about Claude right here, he's a flying bow. You know, nothing much you can change about that. So he has Wind Parthia, he's got just special cooldown -1, so that's a slang effect. That is the big thing I'm going to hold on to right now. If unit initiates combat, or if unit is within 2 spaces of an ally, he gets 5 to every stat during combat. And if he deals damage using a special, he restores 50% HP. Now, he doesn't have a lot of HP, but this does mean that you can basically send Claude in. He'll proc a special during combat, because I doubt he one-shots unless it's a flyer. And he's going to attack, get hit, then he's going to heal 50%, so he's going to basically be fully healed. And then he's going to be able to get danced and go on and kill the next unit. Definitely something strong right there. Fury 4 combos in with his 5 to every stat that he gets is really nice, and since he is taking damage after combat, I don't know how useful that is, because he is going in the next round of combat with 8 less HP. I don't know if Fury 4 is the best thing to go for him. There's definitely a lot of other ace skills out there, especially in the, I call them premium skills area. So I'm not sure that's the best one. Chill speed defense is very meh. Dual chills aren't that good. Alright, and then the attack speed rain is the other thing about it that I do fear, because that essentially grants Claude +4 to defense and res, and then he also gets +4 to speed. That in itself is really good, and it completely... Didn't we just get hell, and I don't even understand how you can just release this skill for everyone after that. Maybe it's flyer exclusive. I don't know what the symbol even is. Looks like a bird. I don't get it. So right now when I'm looking at this is a bit of a problem, because as long as enemies are within Claw's range, it doesn't matter where your ally is, they're getting that debuff. That's the big thing. You could have an ally 3 spaces away and a foe 2 spaces away, and that ally effectively gets that bonus during combat. It's so stupid because that completely negates like a lot of basic A skills on units with just a C skill that does the entire effect for you. I don't see any good coming from this because everyone's going to want these range skills, and hopefully that they don't get any tier 4s.
I make it a point to dress in a tastefully mature way. It's worth the time.
Alright. Lycia. Okay. So, Infantry Red Mage. I haven't seen that before. So, I'm sure a lot of Lycia fans are super happy that she has a bunch of good stuff, but I'll be honest with you, I definitely see some ways to get around these things. Big thing is, I'm going to start from below. So Hone Speed 4 is not granted to her. It's granted to allies. Low speed and res makes sense that she wants as much speed as possible to double. And res -3 means you can't really buff your res unless it's something like Distant Ward or Distant Defense, something that is effective during combat and isn't a visible buff. So the big thing now is we're going to start with the weapon, because we got those ones out of the way. They're not too big of a problem. Effective against cavalry foes. This is Dark Spikes. So you're not going to use cavalry against her unless you're sending in someone like a strong blue cav with Death Blow 4 to kind of get the one shot on in. Because the big thing about Lycia is she gets one shot in turn. She has no defensive capabilities. Nothing to keep her going. She's meant to be kind of a snowball, I guess. I never had a quote-unquote good Lycia, let alone one that even doubled in 3 houses, so I don't understand where the speed stat's coming from. So, as long as I'm above 75% HP, so if I'm already weakened, there's a attack speed +6. So, nothing new, kind of like her original Hades Omega, I believe. And then if her HP is less than 100% and she initiates combat, notice how she has to both be in 2 thresholds to get this bonus. She gets basically the Forsetti. Now, the thing about this is, 1, the attack speed +6 is probably going to happen. And in reality, if you have like, okay, let me just do the math real quick. If you have, I believe it's 48 to your HP right now, you take 12 damage from both her attacks. As looking at things, you basically are still in the threshold, and you got that bonus damage dealt to you. So anyone with above 48 HP, I really don't see much of an issue for that initial attack speed +6, because if you have over 48 HP, you'd be like, who has over 48 HP? Well, my Sias, my Trevant, the live units have over 48 HP. As long as being that HP threshold, you are going to be kind of not noticing that attack difference. The attack speed push is something you're going to have to notice, and you're going to take a lot of beatings from that. the the second threshold, which is her being low, initiating combat. The big thing about that is when the map starts, unless you're running Duma, and if you run Duma in Arena, I seriously question what's wrong with you. At the start of the battle, everyone's at full HP. Meaning, if anything happens, she's not getting that bonus. And even if she does, she's not proccing Moonbow because she doesn't have anything to accelerate her cooldown in that segment. So she's not getting, Moonbow at 1 cooldown, and when she attacks, it's only Moonbow turns into 1. When she does the second attack, that means Moonbow is 0 now. You probably want to run Glimmer instead because of that damage she's doing. But that's a situation where I actually think that could hurt her, especially if someone's running the Sacred Seal that reduces damage dealt from magic attacks that happen like twice. So I can definitely see that seal being useful, because all you have to really do is you have to have someone who can tank a mage. And it's got to be someone who has high res by default. So my size, for instance, I don't remember what her stats are. I can probably look up what her stats are. And I'll probably put that attack stat on the screen. Probably not, actually. Who really cares? It's just numbers that can be inflated by different means. Maybe I'll make my size plus res, and then no one can deal any damage magically for him. Whatever. Alright, so the big thing about this unit is she definitely is a Leaf situation, a Lilith situation, where if you use her on your control, you can destroy. However, in the hands of the enemy, there is really nothing to fear. She is still another infantry mage that can walk forward and then you run at her and then just get the one shot in. No like close counter stuff, no damage reduction stuff. She's just dealing a lot of damage. And while it's definitely hard to find someone who can tank 6 to attack speed, another's 7 to attack speed, and you get nothing to your speed and you lose a little bit of res, so essentially she's getting 16 to her attack. You're not tanking her by any means, but you can. And if you can tank about any mage in the game. So if I'd recommend to anyone, I would choose probably an armored lance user with moderate to good res. Definitely put on them probably DC, give them a good lance. Maybe you can use Forsyths and his soul lance, or maybe you put a barrier lance on like FE or something like that, and you basically try and tank as much as you possibly can. Yeah, that's your best bet. So now we're going to the last one.
I will not allow those who slither in the dark to stand in the way of my path.
Alright. If it isn't the lady herself, an armored axe user. Who saw this one coming? Raise your hand. Alright. Flower Hearthclear, because Crimson Flower. Now, of all the units in this banner, I'd say the biggest, cause of concern right now, because right now I had proof that you can counter Dimitri pretty easily, because while he gets maximum buffs in certain areas, he doesn't really get buffs in other areas, like his speed or his res. So the big thing about all the units so far is in the player's hands, all the units are great. In the AI's hands, not so much. Easily exploited. Basically, you have no cause to be concerned right now. You don't need to think about anything. You don't need to counterattack Lycia. If you could just run in there with a 3-move cavalry and just bonk her on the head and she's dead. Frail as in the game. And that was kind of the thing with all the units so far, is in the AI's hands, all of them can easily be exploited. And this is how it's going to be in Arena, this is how it's going to be in Aether Raids, and that's important to note. So far I'd say the most fearsome one on this banner is actually probably Claude, because of that healing and stuff like that, I can definitely see parts where he's going to be a little tricky, especially on flyer teams. I wonder if he's going to be... Can you give him Pegasus Flight? Oh no, that's if you could, that'd be a bit of a... I'd have to look into that, because that Pegasus Flight thing could be interesting with his weapon and Fury, but I don't want to be the guy who looks too deeply into that. But now we gotta go to Edelgard, who I looked at and I said, okay, there's definitely a lot of things that you have to think about when it comes to fighting this unit. So one is that she gets accelerated cooldown unlike other units. Unlike Dimitrius, unlike Lycia, you know, the girls don't get... The girls... Or, no, never mind. I don't know what I'm saying. Claude and Edelgard get the trigger cooldown. That doesn't make any sense. No. Okay. A sort of turn. If unit's HP is above 25%, unit can move 1 extra space and grants the following status for 1 turn. Unit can move to a space adjacent to any ally within 2 spaces. Okay, so far all we have right now is as long as she's above 25% HP, she gets both aerobatics, or in some cases you might think about warp powder on Zelgius, and then she also gets armor march. So that's pretty cool. Basically, you don't have to worry about her falling behind at all. She's gonna move pretty far for some reason. Right now, looking at this, I'm not seeing too big of an issue. You know, movement's big, but I have peony, right? And armor boots exist as a seal, so I'm not seeing anything right now that I can't handle. At start of combat, if unit's HP is above 25%, inflicts attack, defense -6 on foe during combat. Not too big of a deal. It's not a lull. You're not losing any bonuses to that stat. You're just getting a reduction. You know, she's doing 6 more damage, you're doing 6 less. That's all it's supposed to be. Noontime ain't that gonna be replaced, especially with cooldown count -1. Yeesh. So then the other thing is distant ward. So when you're looking at this kit right now, you're seeing a unit you can move around very easily that has a defensive A skill. A defensive A skill. Let that be a reminder. Magic Step or Dragonstone formation is combat 5 to attack and res, and counterattack, basically, regardless of range. Meaning that she can counterattack mages and staff units, but she can't counterattack any kind of a bow unit. That's big, for one. And it's meant to be like, hey, don't be using magic foes or something like that. But right now, that doesn't take an effect when she's fighting any melee users by any means. That means you can probably slap at a powerful red... Actually, you could probably use like a red armor unit, like maybe a dragon like a Dune, even though it says like if they use combat, it's if you initiate, so you can enemy face her with those units. So far, I'm not seeing too big of an issue. I'm definitely seeing like she gets a lot of buffs, you know, as long as she's healthy, she's good. And that has a 25% HP threshold, so she's always gonna have it basically. Now, Black Eagle rule, this is gonna be interesting. If unit's HP is above 25%, unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. Right there. That's player and enemy phase. That completely destroys Arden's follow-up ring. Like, right then and there. It's just completely ignored. So that's a power creep on a free unit that she has a personal skill. And if foe initiates combat, and also if foe initiates combat, they have to add an additional damage received by foe's follow-up attack is reduced by 80%. So you're not meant to take her out in one round of combat, is what I'm trying to understand. And there's a big explanation for what a follow-up attack even means. Because a lot of new players are going to be like, Edelgard, Lycia, Dimitrius, I love Dimitrius, as you know. It's just how it is. So they have to kind of put that explanation in. Makes sense. Now this isn't like damage reduction playing up like Dimitrius had with his defense stat, which I thought was like really cool. You know, like this, it's meant to base on evasion, but like defense, if you have higher defense, you can like take less damage from magic. Crazy idea. Utterly insane. It is not as effective as you would think. Because I don't believe he's going to have high res than Dimitri. As for Edelgard, this is just like the... Basically, if I'm using a magic unit, I'm going to attack, deal a lot of damage. If I'm using a red mage, bop. Maybe if I use Lycia, I'll probably snag the kill immediately, but I don't use Lycia because maybe I'll follow that times pulse for something. I pulled one, she's just sitting in the barracks. But as for the rest of the stuff here, I see what that joint driver is. What that basically tells me is she's going to be a mixed tank. Now, this is the only concern I have because it's probably the unit that's best in hands of the enemy because she has high-end movement. Like, that's always an issue. I hate running against cavalry teams because they can close the distance so quickly that eventually I get backed into a wall. So that's why I always like using the traps on the maps, and I thank you for the traps. So with this, she's going to be moving a lot. She does not get slowed down by the tree terrain. She's just going to be moving around, warping about. Going to be a bit of an issue. Alright, so continuing on with this, what I'm seeing right now of this unit is that she's meant to be a tank, an armored tank, which is... It's weird because she's doing so many other things, but she's spread out in so many locations. You can see that you can probably pull off a good Gale Force build, but she's not getting anything that accelerates her combat even more. So she's not getting anything that basically guarantees Gale Force, because she might just end up killing and not get that second enemy attack to get the cooldown needed for Gale Force. It's not as consistent as Legendary Edelgard. With Distant Ward, it's not like... What doesn't make sense is that you see here she has a lot of movement, right? So she'd be great on player phase, but she has Distant Ward, which is great for enemy phase. Then you have Black Eagle Rule, which is basically she can make follow-up attacks. If foe initiates combat, she gets a damage reduction. Okay, so that was defensive, but that follow-up attack is really good on player phase. So it just doesn't quite make sense where you should use her, because you can easily just warp in front of a unit and then just, you know, deal a bunch of damage with that defense -6, as well as maybe you can replace Distant Ward with something offensive and you can make her offensive. Or you can get rid of some stuff. You could probably get rid of... I think Distant Ward is definitely a drop. But it's like, do you want to make her player phase? Do you want to make her enemy phase? She has a lot of good things that insist that she's an enemy phase tank. But then again, she just like screams, these skills would work so well on the player phase tank. And right now, it doesn't quite make sense to me. So this is by far what I think will be the most odd unit to fight against. Mostly the damage reduction and the ability to have a distant counter against basically any magic unit is a little much. And the one problem I have is she has a lot of invisible buffs to res, which makes sense because Edelgard's personal skill was if she waits, she gets res +4. And I can see her having res in this variant. I can see her having res. And I'm going to keep going for a little bit because we got over all the skills. And you can see right now, Halo, mister, you will go off of here. Right now, if you can see up here, my mouse is on the screen, yes, her HP's in the low 40s. Now we know these are the level 40 variants of the heroes because we saw them. We saw Lycia was level 40. We saw her stats. We didn't see them, these guys, but we can see that she has like 40 something HP. Now, that's not much. I made the comment about Lycia and the threshold you needed was 48, and then this unit has just over 40. It's not a lot of HP, meaning you probably can get away with proccing a Bonfire or an Ignis to secure the kill on this unit. And no, that is not a joke. Now, probably not Bonfire or Ignis, but there's a lot of units right now that when they proc their special, you know, they can will away her HP. Then all you have to do is send in a magic unit that does a lot of damage, and then you just snag the kill. There's no Vantage build on this thing. And a lot of what it seems is that Edelgard's doing a lot of damage. Just like Dimitri. Dimitrius meant to be enemy phase, Edelgard's meant to be enemy phase, Claude and Lycia are meant to be player phase. That's kind of the balancing they went here with Choose Your Legends 4. Now, the big thing about that is Dimitri can be easily exploited because while he has a lot of defense, his res isn't too fancy. And then with Edelgard, the problem is that because she's armored, her BST is higher, and with only like 40-ish going into her HP, it means those sets are going somewhere else. And I can tell you one thing, it's not speed. She's going to be probably the biggest issue out of any of them, because a free armored unit, man, if I don't remember the times when Hector came out and he was just everywhere, everyone was no big of a deal, but Hector having DC with follow-up attacks and like getting bonuses to I think his res, it was a lot. Molte was a lot early on. And right now, it seems as though this is just Molte with extra effects. She's gonna have good res, like not stupidly good res. I'm predicting roughly higher 20s in res, and I'm predicting roughly like in the 40s for defense. Who am I kidding? It's Gen 5. Let's give her 40 that her attack, res, and defense. Why not? Once the numbers come out, we'll be able to analyze whether or not this unit's going to be an issue, but Edelgard right now is the only cause of concern for me, because she does have both defense and res tank options, as well as high-end movement, and basically power crept everything. Now, I don't believe that she's going to be hard to take down, but you definitely need a red unit to do the job. You need a strong defensive sword unit, or you need a very powerful red mage that does a lot of damage. Probably someone like Katarina, for instance. So, with that, I hope everyone here enjoyed the video. I hope you learned that this isn't as bad as it is. When the stats come out, it's another cause of concern, because maybe the BST is extraordinarily high. Maybe you were wrong about Daniel made bow, and it's not. It grants a bunch of stats to him, and it's not just he's a 190 BST archer or something like that. Something crazy. Don't worry yourself too much over something like this. When a unit comes out and you look at them and go, "Oh no! Oh God, no!" Don't think about it like that. So, if you liked or are relieved that it's not as bad as you thought it was, be sure to like, subscribe. That is completely optional. And I'll see you next time people complain about the meta, because that happens a lot, so I probably will be here next week. Bye-bye.